The system it put me in jail for 92 days and then I was released. Under Romanian law, I could have been kept longer, so I guess I'm happy about the fact that I'm free. I'm very sure of my innocence, but it's a long process. And in many ways, I thank God for giving me this experience, because when you grow up as a young man, you dream of being an explorer, an adventurer, or being monumentally successful and having a bunch of money and fast cars and seeing the 5-star areas of the world. But perhaps if you want to truly explore the map, you also need to see the other side of it all. And I'm glad I grew up in a humble background and a humble beginning. And I'm also glad that I got to experience a Romanian jail cell and the Romanian judicial system. So it's God's plan. Is there much justice in the world? Do you trust an American court nowadays with some of the decisions they're making? Do you trust a British court with the decisions they're making? What is a court? What is law? It's the interpretation of words which were written long time ago. How can different judges come to different conclusions based on the same law? Why does the lawyer you hire even matter if the law is fair? Well, I think that when you understand the world, you understand that nothing in life is certain that involves people. We can talk about one of the highest courts of the land, the ICJ. What is law? Like what's being done about what's happening over there? Very little. So if you've ever been in a judicial process, you sit and understand that innocent and guilty is certainly part of it, but there's also a bunch of other factors, especially once you get to a certain level of fame, when you become so well known that your verdict will ripple around the world and it will cause consequence for nations. Then you have to sit and say, okay, whether I'm found innocent or guilty is going to affect nations. It's going to affect how justice systems are perceived internationally. Does that mean they're 100% interested in what's true and what's false and what's fair and what's not? Or is there a narrative being played behind where they sit and say, well, perhaps he didn't do anything wrong, but we're going to look bad if we say he didn't, so let's just put him in jail. What happens when you reach a certain level of fame is that, and anybody who's been fortunate enough to move from the lowest echelons to the highest echelons will learn that anybody they've ever interacted with in their life is going to come along wanting some degree of money or help. And that's fine. But there's also a bunch of people who are bitter, who you perhaps knew in your past, who want to try and benefit off of your fame. And that's what happens. And this is not unique. This is not an experience that only I am going through. I think you can name nearly any famous man in the world, and he has some form of civil charge against him for something that happened 20 years ago that he doesn't even remember, that probably didn't happen at all because somebody wants to finance their life off the back of you. This is just human nature. What is law? What is court? What is a judge? What is fair? God is the only judge. And I truthfully have forgotten about all of them. I think it's around 15 million euros of cars, gold, watches, etc. I don't consider them mine anymore. I've forgotten about all of them. There's very little in this life you truly own besides your heart and your soul and your state of mind. I think those are the only things you can own. You can put me in jail, but I'll own my state of mind. I'll smile just the same. That's my decision. You can't take it from me. And everything else they can take from you, because unless you have enough guns to defend it, and you'll never have more guns than the state, it can be taken. You don't own houses, you don't own cars, you don't own anything else. And if you annoy the government, they're going to prove that to you. When you work hard to be the best version of yourself so you can protect and provide for the people you care about, you're pleasing God. And you do that so that you can wake up and show him the beauty of his own creation. I can be the best version of me. I can make the people around me have the best possible lives. I'm not going to sit and be lazy or not try. And I believe that's all about building your character. It's not even about the money. It's about being the best version of yourself. If all the money in the world was taken from me, that's fine, because I'm still been a person who's worked very hard, been very diligent, who's very intelligent, who can make it all back. And I've also enjoyed this journey of life, which has brought me here with the good and the bad. And I think the greatest sin a man can commit in the world today is being a fraction of what he could be. I think that's the biggest sin you can commit in the face of your creator. I think jail is just a hyper-condensed version of life. As a man, you have to show other people respect, otherwise violence will happen very quickly. It's the same out here in the real world, but in jail it's condensed, it's pressurized. You have to have mental control, you have to have control of your own mind out here in the real world or you'll get depressed. Jail is the same, it's pressurized. So as long as you're good at life, you'll be good at jail. And I've never been a bully, I've never been an abrasive or aggressive person. I know how to respect people and make sure that I'm respected. And all in all, I don't think it taught me anything new. It just confirmed everything I knew about the realities of being human. The UK has requested my extradition on some ancient charges from 2012. the warrant doesn't have any names, it doesn't have any locations, it doesn't even have any specific times, it only has a year. Quite interesting. I think the world is waking up to these tactics now, and I think the world is understanding that if you upset powerful people, they come at you with charges exactly like this. And I'm not the only one. We can name other people that has happened to. We can name somebody who's in Belmarsh right now because of it. So it's very common. It's actually quite scary, I think, that governments will come along and tell men at home to respect the rule of law. But sir, as a male, they could say to you in 2011, we won't tell you who, we won't tell you where, we won't tell you exactly when, we won't tell you exactly what happened. You committed assault, you must come here and go to court. That's pretty scary because none of it makes any sense. What is refreshing is I'll get a jury trial and people are awakened to this garbage now because this has been happening for too long. And also, I will not be looking at going to the UK for at least 5 to 6 years, at least, because I have to finish all my Romanian proceedings. So this is on the later base for now, and I'll handle it when the time comes. I'm very good at just dealing with things when the time comes. That's who I am. And truthfully, I'll be very honest. I mean, not to goad the authorities in any way, I'm not scared of jail. Nobody believes it. A guilty verdict will not make anybody believe it. Everybody knows it's a matrix attack, and I have no problems going to jail. So it's God's plan, and if I get a little holiday, then I'll take my holiday. I don't think I'm public enemy number one anymore. At one point, I was public enemy number one. Now I'm probably public enemy number 11. And the old story goes, you don't have to be the fastest person when you're outrunning the bear. You just have to be faster than the slowest guy. I feel like I'm getting there now. But those are the 3 stages. When you say things that upset power, they try and cancel you. They delete your access to speak. They delete all your access to social media. Because your ability to speak freely is directly correlated with your insignificance. They allow you to say whatever you want if nobody listens. People start listening, then you have to be careful what you say. So the whole free speech thing is garbage anyway. So they cut that off. If that doesn't work, then they'll find a reason to put you in jail, which they did with me. Somebody told them, find something. They made up garbage, and I'm not the only person this happened to. And if that continues to fail, then yeah, they will kill you. Because I think the timing doesn't make sense. I'm not an expert on Russian politics. I'm not an expert on the internal affairs of Russia. I'm not Russian. I just feel like it got Putin quite a lot of heat. And I don't feel like it was an ample time for him to just commit an assassination. He was under enough heat. He had enough things going on. He just did the Tucker interview, I believe. In fact, a lot of people in the West have respect for Putin now, maybe not amongst the elites, but amongst the general populace because he's nationalistic and he's very competent, which is something we're lacking in our leadership. It just didn't make sense for him to do a bad guy thing. The guy was already in jail. I understand he died from complications of the vaccine. That's what I understand, but perhaps I'm wrong. Who knows? Every country has its own way of dealing with things, right? And nowhere's perfect. But I just think it's kind of hypocritical to us in the West. We look at all these other countries and we say, look, you can't speak over there. Oh, look what happens when you challenge power over there. Well, look what happens when you challenge power over here, my friends. I genuinely don't operate in the realm of fear. I have absolutely no fear of going to jail in Romania. Boring. I have no fear at all. I know I'm innocent. The world knows I'm innocent. Everybody knows this is a matrix attack. The idea that, and I can prove it's a matrix attack. I can prove it because would ancient charges from 13 years ago be trumped up and tried to press against me if I wasn't famous, if I was a normal person? Well, of course not. It's because I'm famous and they're trying to prove a point. They're trying to damage my influence. They're trying to damage my reach. The girls or whoever these people are, if they exist at all, want money. All of this is happening purely because of my fame. If my fame was in the hands of the establishment, if I was working for the MSM, like these other people who work for the BBC who've been caught being sexual predators, well, then it wouldn't be on the news. They're only doing it against me because I'm against the establishment. The whole thing's a matrix attack. It's all made up. And when you ask me on my deathbed, whether it's in jail or it's out here in freedom, are you glad you didn't sell your soul and fought against power for what you knew was right, even though they put you in jail? My answer is going to be yes, of course. I don't care about a big house and a bunch of cars. That can be taken from me anyway. But I care about looking in the mirror knowing I am the man I said I was. So I'm going to say what I believe. And if they want to put me in jail for it, then they can put me in jail. It's very interesting, this whole legal system, the whole legal process. It is very interesting because, like I said, you stand before a judge and you said, my mother's had a heart attack. Can I go see my mother? Here's the papers. She's had a heart attack. She might die. I haven't been able to leave this country for a year and a half. Can I go see my mother? And the judge will look at you and go, no. And it is what it is. I mean, I don't know what to say beyond that. It's a very interesting scenario to be in. And this is where we go down to what's law, what's real, because there's a lot of judges who would have said, yes, that's perfectly legal. There's a bunch of judges who say no, it's not legal. You have one lawyer who says, this is illegal, they can't do this. Another lawyer says they're not supposed to do it, but they do it all the time, they get away with it. All of it is just words. Yeah, and when you look at it, it's not just the legal system. You start to understand this entire world is just people walking into rooms and saying things. Government are just people walking in a room and saying stuff. An education system is just people walking in a room and saying things. The legal system, the medical system, just a bunch of people chit-chatting. So how it all plays out, I don't know. I think it's very clear that this world is run on deception. I think it's very clear that there are power structures which are designed to enslave the minds of people so they'll continue to allow their bodies to be enslaved. I think it's very clear that there's people who can't afford to eat anymore and inflation's out of control and the standard of living is declining and crime is off the charts, and they just try very hard to pretend that's not true with their various mechanisms of control. And powerful people have always wanted to exert control. And when I fight against or resist these things, I want the world to understand that I don't even take it personally. Even though they've put me in jail, I don't take it personally. I have 110 people who work for me. If one of them was particularly troublesome and disagreed with everything I said and didn't listen to me, I'd fire him. So if you run a country and you come along with your lies and your narratives because you want to profit or you believe it benefits you geopolitically, and you want to sit there and lie to the population, and the population believes it, and then there's this one guy, this top G guy, who's saying, no, this is a lie, and everyone's starting to pay attention to him, well, then you're going to do something about it. Anyone who doesn't understand that's how the world works must live in some fairy tale land. That's how the world works, and I've upset very powerful people by telling the truth about very important things. I think the matrix is cracking in real time because people are being awakened to how much all of these systems based on fairness are simply a lie. They're simply a curtain, a distraction, a theater play to keep everybody believing in them. But you say that people can't collude globally around the world to exert power and control. I think there's a very interesting situation happening right now, which is an active genocide, where you can see certain countries can get away with whatever they want and other countries can't. And if that isn't proof of all the big money working together, well, then I don't know what more there is to say. This whole Aiden Ross thing, I'm not entirely sure that triggered the arrest, but you don't know. I'm very sure the Romanian state is extremely personally invested in my case. I'm very sure they understand their reputation's on the line. They're very afraid of anything going wrong with this judicial process. But I'm here for the long haul. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to see it through to the end because I'm not afraid of them. So yeah, the social media is social media, and there's a whole lot of crazy things that happen from it, but also there's a lot of good that happens from social media. I don't think people would understand a lot of the realities in the world today without social media. The veil has been lifted on a whole bunch of narratives that we've been forced to support for a very long time because of social media, which is why now governments in the West are panicking and passing laws trying to censor and stop social media. Free countries, democracy, free speech. Oh, no, not when you say what we don't like. So now they're coming along and trying to stop it all. And I have to say that Rumble, which is the platform I'm on, and also X, owned by Elon Musk, both of these platforms have been monumentally important for the freedom of humanity, because I think we're entering an oncoming decade or an oncoming generation of slavery. Although I think the narrative against me, most people would have ignored it and not believed it anyway, because it's the boy who cried wolf and they've done it too many times. The fact I've been able to show the other side of the story has been extremely important. And also, I've only been showing 5% of my side of the story. And this is where you go back to my original point, sir. When we talk about the reputations of entire nations, I mean, people say Romania, like, oh, it's only Romania. Romania is a rich European nation. It's an EU member state. Are they going to allow their entire judicial system to be seen as corrupt and incompetent by letting me walk after destroying my life for years? Or are they going to sit and say, we have to save face here? I don't know. Nobody knows. But the fact is, I've only said 5% of what I know about how garbage the case against me is on social media, because I'm waiting for the conclusion of this. And heaven forbid I go to jail, at least then everybody will know the absolute truth about the setup they purported upon me, because I upset the people in power. And that's how the world works. If I said that, then I'm not going to say them here, but I will say for sure that it's extremely coincidental when he started to talk the truth about the vaccine and how pharmaceutical companies operate, that he then got hit with these charges. It's very interesting. I mean, anyone at home who believes these charges when they come out against somebody, let me explain how simple it is. You can attack a pharmaceutical company and say that they're killing people with a vaccine, for example. The pharmaceutical company pays a lot of money of advertising revenue towards X media outlet. So they tell that media outlet, well, we're paying you, you better do a smear piece on this guy. Then they use the media machine, smear piece, they drum up as much hate as possible, especially if they cancel all your social media at the same time, they work together so you can't defend yourself. Then journalists start calling around everyone you've ever known, or they inspire the police to decide to dig into you and call everyone you've ever known. And if they call 2,000 people who you used to know, they try to find a crime. And especially when crimes are so subjective now, especially in the West, right? And emotional coercion. So when police call 2,000 girls or 2,000 men who you used to know across a decade and say, did he ever emotionally coerce you? And they'll say, well, what does that even mean? And the police will say, well, convince you to do something effectively. And she'll be like, well, he asked me nicely to bake him a cupcake. I guess that's emotional coercion. Before you know it, you got a UK extradition warrant, and they're telling you in 2012 you were emotionally coerced. It's all a scam. It's a scam. And anybody who is sitting at home who believes any of these charges, which seem to always appear against powerful men who speak against the system, need their heads checked.
Although the charges aren't exactly about baking cupcakes.
Oh, well, the charges are about a bunch of, again, subjective, garbage things. Emotional coercion, and I don't even know what my charges are. I haven't even been charged, sir. The UK government has not charged me. CPS has not charged me. They've just said in 2011, he told a girl to bake cupcakes. Well, he was part of the mainstream news. Yeah, of course. Well, because he stopped being for the mainstream news. He worked for them, and he was all over TV, and he was dancing with all these girls, and he had all these girls around him, and they seemed to very much enjoy his company. And he was famous, and he was on Channel 4, and he was doing Big Brother, and he did all these amazing things. And then he stopped working for the MSM. He stopped, decided to start telling the truth. I believe he found God, and he changed his life, and he sobered up and started telling the truth about certain narratives, and all of a sudden, he's a criminal. Funny, strange coincidence. But when you say bad, is a snake bad? Is a tiger bad? When a tiger kills an antelope and rips his throat out, is it bad, or is it just being a tiger? The MSM is just being the MSM. They have their interests, which is either money or a narrative from a government, which they're told to enforce. The BBC is told by the British government what they want the people to believe. They are funded by the British government. If you're not funded by a government, you're funded by advertisers. You follow the money, you do what the money wants you to do, and that's the goal. I don't even see it as bad. I'm just realistic about how the world works. I'm not a fantasist. A tiger is not bad for killing an antelope, and the MSM isn't bad for lying. It's just their job. How this ends, I'm not sure, because as the matrix cracks, as governments and as these huge, powerful banking institutions and all these people who control the money lose their ability to blanket control narratives, there's going to be a lashing out. And I feel like we're getting there now with certain legislation being passed. I think Scotland passed one 2 days ago. A lashing out is going to come against people who speak the truth, and a lashing out. I'm a victim of it myself. So it's kind of interesting. We've cornered the tiger of lies, and when you corner a tiger, they get extremely vicious, and we're going to see what happens next. Well, I don't even see myself as divisive, and I think 99% of the world doesn't see me as divisive. And
you really think so?
I really think so. And what they say is toxic masculinity is simply masculinity in most of the world today. In fact, even in the countries now where they're going to try and pretend my message is damaging and dangerous, I say to men they should go work hard, get strong, go to the gym, be mentally disciplined, be stoic. All of these things were accepted by the entire population 10 or 15 years ago. I haven't changed my views. I haven't come up with anything radical or new. They've changed the parameters of what a man is, and they've lost their minds, not me. So I don't really believe I'm divisive. In fact, every single time a hit piece is published about me by the MSM, they turn the comments off. Please, you can check yourself. Every time the BBC, Channel 4, Channel 5, Australian news, whenever they try and do a hit piece on me, they have to turn the comments off because there's just thousands of comments saying, you're wrong and he's right. A man should be a man and a woman should be a woman, and that's what makes families and society beautiful. Well, I don't think you would have ever achieved anything in the world if you don't have certain people who hate you. That's fine. And there can be a contingent of the populace who hates me while I still remain eternally correct. I'm still right. That's fine. I mean, it's fine. And you could be the best thing in the world. It doesn't matter what you are. You can be a Ferrari and someone will hate you because you're too loud. I know what I'm saying is true. I know my message is overwhelmingly positive. I know I've had a massive positive impact on millions of people's lives. I know that in the end, as this arc completes and my innocence is proven, there's gonna be a lot of people who have to apologize to me. If somebody wants to sit in their bedroom crying their eyes out because I said something they find mildly offensive, well, then I guess that's their problem. I think if you actually want to be a professional, and like I said, I've analyzed all these things very non-emotionally, I think it's impossible to say anything positive doesn't have a negative impact under the right circumstances. There's no light without dark. Water is positive. You need water to live. You can drown in water. Music makes people happy. Yes, you can listen to music, you can feel happy, you can enjoy a party. It also sings about doing drugs. People become drug addicts. Like, I would like to believe my message is overwhelmingly positive. I tell people to train, to work hard, to make as much money as possible, to be stoic, etc. I'd be a liar if I couldn't sit here and say, well, I've convinced 100 million men to go to the gym and one of them dropped a dumbbell on his foot. Well, maybe, perhaps. I mean, but what can you do? You have to speak in generalities. Exceptions don't disprove the rule. The things I'm saying are generally good things, and the rules are generally good. So for them to come along and attack me as they do, this is what's so disingenuous about the mainstream media, because this is exactly what they do. I'll teach men how important it is to be strong and go to the gym and look after themselves. They will then see thousands of kids go to the gym and work hard. They will then find one kid who goes to the gym who's maybe autistic, maybe he's not socially well conditioned, maybe he had bad parents, who knows, who starts walking around the school saying, I'm strong, and bumping into people. Then they'll say, Andrew Tate did that, and they'll attack me. That's as asinine. That is as foolish as waiting for somebody to crash a car and see that they were playing a Taylor Swift song and start saying that Taylor Swift fans crash cars. Because most people listen to Taylor Swift and don't crash their car. So the whole MSM narrative against me is completely disingenuous. Masculinity is under such attack now that it is an act of resistance and rebellion to tell men to train and get strong. You can sit and say, telling men to be strong isn't why they attack you. Yes, it is, because when you tell men to be strong and have principles, they resist the slave programming. I'm telling men to make their own money and to get strong physically and to protect the people they care about and to say no to the programming. That's what they don't like. If I was telling men to put a wig on and become a girl, I wouldn't be going through any of this legal trouble, not a single drop of it. If I was trying to convince men to castrate themselves, I'd be fine. But when I say, no, you're a man, you have to protect what you care about and stand up for what you believe in, no, then you're a problem. And it's a problem because they're trying to enslave all of us. And I don't think anybody at home actually understands where this AI tech and where the world's going. They're trying to enslave all of us. And when you come in as a conquering army, the first thing you do is you destroy the warriors. It's always been the same. You kill all the military-age males so that you're left with eunuchs, young boys who can't fight back, and girls. And they don't want men who listen to me or men like me because they know we would rather die. And they don't like it. Again, we look at, sometimes I say things in hyperbole or I say things sarcastically for comedic effect. I do believe that children are extremely important. I do believe a man should have kids. I do believe we need families. I do believe the Western world needs more children. In fact, the Western governments themselves believe in it. That's why the populations are declining and collapsing. That's why we have to import people from all around the world, because nobody has kids. I believe a man's duty is to have children with the woman he loves, absolutely. If he loves more than one woman and he wants kids with all of them and they're all happy, consenting adults, I once again condone that. I think that a lot of the people running the world is strangely coincidental that none of them have kids. Have you ever actually looked at the people in the Western world, the people who are in charge of us, none of them have kids? Isn't that weird? Wouldn't you want to be like 65 and have no kids at all and just aim for the control of the entire population and try and starve everyone to death? I don't know. Anyone without kids I don't trust, and I'll stand by that. I would agree that the reason people are now not having as many children is because they're chasing money, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily down to the fact they want to be overly ambitious. I think they're chasing money because their government has destroyed their ability at living a fair and free and semi-comfortable life on any kind of normal wage. So when they inflate the currency to the moon, and when crime gets out of control so you need to move to a more expensive house, and when your living standards collapse, of course you're not going to be trying to have kids because you're trying to pay your bills, and the government's done that on purpose. Very few governments are actually making initiatives directly aimed at trying to promote people having children. Hungary's done it, South Korea's just recently done it, but most of the Western countries' answer is just to open the border. But if you're a man and you're alive for 80 years, and you don't manage to have children at all, and not because of some misfortune. Again, exceptions don't disprove the rule. We're not talking about people who are incompetent in some way. We're talking about people who can do it and don't do it because they're too busy trying to get a promotion at some corporation. Well, I think that's a failure. I think children are the most important and beautiful thing on this planet, and they should be your priority in all ways, yes. A lot of the things I say that have been used against me, I said 10 years ago when nobody knew who I was. And it's kind of unfair for me to make a video that gets 60 views 10 years ago, and now I'm the most famous man in the world. It's going to be used against me. Of course, now I understand that with my massive power comes massive responsibility. I have to be a lot more careful how I say certain things because a lot more people will listen. I respect all of that. However, once again, this is uniquely used against me. But I've done that for all the important ones, but I've also done thousands of hours of interviews. And also in this sliding scale, this never-ending tapestry of constant offense, a lot of the things I've said to you right here, right now, there's going to be people who take massive offense to it. And there's going to be someone else who's upset, some nobody. And I'm not really in the business of sitting down, apologizing to faceless nobodies all day long. People make these Twitter accounts, they have no fans, no followers, no face, it's anon, or the MSM quotes an anon source. All this is just made up imaginary, or people who have no relevance in society, and they sit there and say, Andrew, you offended me. Well, guess what? The world is harsh, the world is hard. You're gonna have to get over it and live your life. You don't have to read what I say, you don't have to listen to my videos. I don't care that you exist, if you exist at all, so you can just move on. I'm really not in the habit of sitting down and apologizing to a bunch of insignificant people. I'm not gonna sit here and dedicate my life to trying to make those people feel better. My genuine fans aren't stupid. Once again, there may be one autistic kid who goes to the gym and walks around the school and acts like an idiot. I'm sure there's some idiot who's listened to 50 Cent and thought, that's it, it's time to shoot people and sell drugs. I'm sure there's some idiot who's done exactly that. But most people play his song and enjoy the song for what it is and then move on with their lives. I'm not going to sit here and assume all my fans are idiots. And I'm not going to assume they're all carbon copies of me either. I'm sure a lot of them like some of the things I say and disagree with some of the things I say because they're functioning adults, as we all are. I'm not responsible for the action of every single person who's ever heard an Andrew Tate video. And the world knows this, and the MSM knows this, and the police know this, but they're using it against me anyway because this is a Matrix attack. Unless Taylor Swift starts going to jail for everyone who crashes a car with a Taylor Swift CD in, everything that's happening to me is unjustified. I do believe that genuinely happened. I do believe there was a child who watched my stuff, who had some kind of learning difficulty, who was repeating it over and over again. And I have to sit here and say, okay, I'm a man on the internet that makes videos. You're saying a child in Australia 3,000 miles away with learning difficulties listened to what I said and repeats the phrases. I'm sure before he was repeating my phrases, he was repeating phrases from TV or from a song or from something else. How is this even how can I defend myself against this level of attack? Besides, do what they want, which is not talk at all. They're going to put me in a position where if I say anything, it's bad. If I say anything, it can be used against me. So the only way I can protect myself from somebody who I've never met 3,000 miles away repeating the words I've said on the internet is to not talk on the internet, which is what they want me to do, which is why they attack me with this garbage, and I utterly refuse. I would consider myself a political commentator, and I would consider myself somebody who comments on men's rights issues because nobody else seems to care. Nobody else seems to care that men commit more suicide, men are more homeless, men are the ones who are struggling in society today. We have no mental health support. Even if you look at something as simple as cancer, breast cancer gets all the funding, prostate cancer, nobody cares. Men are here to die, pay taxes, nobody cares about us, nobody cares about our feelings. And then they sit and say, oh yeah, men are depressed, that's strange. When I come along and try and offer a solution, they matrix attack me because the solution isn't the solution they like. Because the solution they like is to take pharmaceutical drugs and sit around crying at home. And I try and show something which is against the big money and against the big pharma. So I don't know who the manosphere are, but I am a man. And I will tell my story of how I live the best possible experience of being a man. And I'll help as many men as possible. And I'll highlight the difficulties that men go through. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.